Is it possible to make Fox News viewers change their minds about key issues just by having them change the channel?
What's the consideration on student loans? I know you just keep saying the president's on his own timeline there.
Police officer called police officer to remove a 4-year-old from campus.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have done it. I have found one of the key issues to solving the inflation problem. Also, Brian Stelter out at CNN. Some kid got escorted off of his campus in California for not wearing a mask. Oh, by the way, he was 4 years old. Would a Republican marry a Democrat in today's political climate? And how much money is going to get spent in the primaries? All that and more coming up on the Friday edition of the Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live on today. It is August 19th, the year of our Lord 2022. And like I said, I have done it. I found one of the main components into solving inflation, and President Biden can actually help in this. Maybe by going against his entire party for some reason, but at the end of the month has a big opportunity to really actually do something that would help stop inflation. We'll get to that in just a second, but first I wanted to get to this. Now, there's a lot of cheering when people that we don't like and also lie consistently get ousted from their positions. One of those people was one Brian Stelter, who ironically hosted a show called Reliable Sources on CNN. CNN has announced that they are canceling Mr. Stelter's show, and he will be moving on from the network entirely. Kind of interesting. CNN chief Chris Litch informed Stelter of his decision yesterday. He's been making cuts through the network since taking helm as a part of Warner Brothers Disney's takeover of the old Time Network or Time Warner company. The network pulled the plug on its standalone digital platform, CNN Plus, which they sunk, what was it, $400 billion into, for which it hired NPR host Audrey Cornish, who's a big deal, and former Fox News host Chris Wallace before it had launched. Both stayed with CNN. Brian Stelter, again, the host of the weekly show on CNN, is out. I wanted to play a clip from, actually, it's not a clip, it's a compilation of clips from these guys. Oh, shoot, I forget. I use these guys a lot, and I keep forgetting who they are. Maybe their little logo there is in the thing, and I don't take it out. But these are some of the reasons why Brian Stelter was such a, I don't want to say pain in the butt, because I can deal with pains in the butts, just a nuisance, I think. And that's not to say that I don't feel bad for a guy who's losing his job and has to figure out something else for him and his family. I can respect that that's a difficult position to be in. But at the same time, there's a reason why CNN was hemorrhaging viewers, and Brian Stelter was a big reason for that. Check out this compilation of the CNN show Reliable Sources, and maybe you can come up with your own reasons as to why CNN might have canceled this show. Also, if you haven't already, I see a couple thousand of you watching this right now on various platforms. If you click the little like button, the little share button, especially if you're on Facebook, the little reacting button really, really does help us out, get to more people. Let us know, would you have fired Brian Stelter? Let us know in the comments during this montage. Anyways, check this out. Watch this. Stelter out at CNN.
To understand why so many Republicans have abandoned democracy, you have to hear the poisonous propaganda. What do folks in the reality-based media do in the coming weeks? Biden's secret emails. This is a classic example of the right-wing media machine.
When we're not able to say that Hunter Biden's laptop is a story worth pursuing.
You say we're not allowed, we're not able. Who's the people stopping the conversation? Who are they? Is it possible to make Fox News viewers change their minds about key issues just by having them change the channel? Entire media companies essentially exist to tear down Joe Biden. Can we have an honest conversation about gas prices? Or has the coverage been out of proportion? out of step with the American public. Too much of the U.S. media chatter is distorted to the point of being dishonest. Dana Milbank, here's his column for the Post this weekend, and he says he has data to show that the press has turned more negative against Biden than the press was against Trump. What do you think about that? Does it ring true to you? Trump might have committed treason. What does Putin have on Trump? The U.S. president possibly working for the Russians. Is President Trump a racist? Is the Trump presidency a criminal presidency? Trump and some of his allies are promoting a hate movement against the American press. Why does Sarah Sanders still have a job? Is it time for newsrooms to think of new ways to convey Trump's lack of credibility? You might say the media hasn't earned your trust either. Okay, look up the stats for yourself. There's no way to tweet yourself out of impeachment. Impeachment. What I hear on Fox is that the media is obsessed about impeachment. Impeachment. Just imagine if Fox's right-wing hosts talked about Trump the way they talked about Barack Obama. Dealing with hardship actually makes you stronger. That's what Governor Cuomo said earlier today. That's what I'm going to go teach my kids right now at home.
That last one is kind of sad. Yeah, he's gonna have a lot more time to teach his kids at home what he wants to teach them. Lots of the comments saying there, he's such a reliable source. Bye, Felicia. Someone says more fake news. So yeah, Brian Stelter, host of Reliable Sources, the ironically named show on CNN, is out after the canceling of that show. CNN, just so you know, I have a CNN Sucks t-shirt that I sell online on my website. It's fantastic. I wear it all the time. But CNN in the last 6 to 8 months has actually gotten pretty decent, especially in their news coverage. Jake Tapper obviously has an opinion on things that I would disagree with a lot, but has been pretty good covering Ukraine, covering a lot of the domestic policy stuff. So maybe after the ousting of Jeffrey Zucker, CNN's longtime boss, CNN might go back to the kind of middle of the road, obviously leaning a little bit left, but more middle of the road airport TV news that they used to be, because they can't, for some reason, compete with MSNBC. Maybe you don't agree with that. Maybe you think CNN still sucks because they employ people like Don Lemon. But their news stuff and their online stuff is actually pretty good, if we're being honest and being fair here. I mentioned earlier in the show that I have found a way to help solve inflation. One thing that the president could do to help solve inflation starting at the end of this month is nothing. The president could do nothing revolving this whole student loan crisis, student loan debt payment stall. He could do nothing. There have been clamoring opinions from the left, from Liz Warren, from pretty much all of the woke Congress people, from all of the progressive talk show hosts, that Joe Biden needs to cancel student debt. He has the ability to cancel $50,000 of student debt with just a flick of the pen. First of all, he does not. The power of the purse is controlled by Congress. Nancy Pelosi, who's the Speaker of the House, also agrees that he cannot do that. Joe Biden, in a town hall a year or two ago now, when asked, what are you going to do to eliminate student debt? He said, I'm not going to do that. That's not what I'm going to do. He doesn't have the power to do that. And also, another component that I heard on the cable news shows the other day was, if the student loan payments go back into effect, that'll actually help inflation. And I do think that'll be the case, because here's the thing. If they continue the hold on student loans until the end of the year, that's what, I don't know. Honestly, that'll probably happen. Joe Biden will probably sustain the student loan pause until the end of the year so that they can get through the midterms and try to retain as many seats as possible. But if he doesn't do that and makes people start having to pay back the money that they took, including people that I know, they're going to not have as much money to spend on their own, and therefore not cause more inflation. As simple as that. The less money people have, and this is unfortunate, by the way, but the reality of inflation is more people spending less money on things they don't need will help inflation. cramping down on the economy as hard as we can, unfortunately, helps solve inflation. And one of the things that can help do that is adults who took out loans paying back those loans. Here's a clip from CNN of, I think, Brian Deese. He's a Biden spokeshole talking about the president's timeline on deciding on whether or not student loans should be paid off. Check this out.
What's the consideration on student loans? I know you just keep saying the president's on his own timeline there, but what is right now holding that up?
Well, there's a set of considerations that the president is taking into account, and there's also the timeline of where we are. There's the question of whether and how students should start to repay their loans. That during the pandemic we paused payments on student loans across the board as part of the emergency efforts that we did for different parts of the economy, small businesses in the U.S. So there are those factors that all need to be factored in. And this, as the president has said, he is preparing to make an announcement on that, and I'm not going ahead of him.
Yeah, so that's basically a bunch of hullabaloo saying, well, there's several different options that we can take. But the reality is the president cannot eliminate student loans. Let me see. Thomas said this was kind of interesting. Isn't canceling student debt an attempt to buy voters? Yes, it is. Democrats and the Democrat Party are going to try to pull as many college-educated women specifically to their side of the aisle because they can't, I don't think, depend on the black vote, the Latino vote, or the Asian vote, historically Democrat voting blocks, as much as they used to be able to rely on those demographics. Last thing, and I've said this a bajillion times, canceling student debt is the least progressive thing that quote unquote progressives have ever pushed for. The whole idea of quote unquote progressives is to make things more fair and equal amongst all people. Statistically, college graduates make more money than the average American, and therefore the average American, via the taxpayer, would be bailing out the people that make more money, taking from the poor and giving to the rich. It's kind of like a reverse Robin Hood going on there. Also, I'm seeing a lot of people in the comment section talking about scammers in this thing. This is unrelated to any of these stories. Yeah, there's always been commenters here that are trying to scam you out of money. Don't listen to them. Don't engage with other people in the comment section that are saying, hey, can you please message me and I will give you $1 bajillion? That's not real. Thanks for those of you who are pointing out that there are some scammers in the comment section. That's just the unfortunate reality of doing a show on the internet. Speaking of Democrats trying to buy votes via quote unquote canceling student debt, brace yourself. The ads are coming. There is going to be an onslaught of political spending leading up to the midterms that I am not excited for, and I don't think you should either. This is pretty stinking interesting, just given where we are and where we're headed from a political standpoint and getting people to turn out and show up to vote. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you're watching, just hit the little like button or the little react button or the little share button, especially if you're on Facebook. Engage with the comments in any way, shape, or form. But don't fall for any of the scammers. That would be helpful to us, and we would really appreciate you doing that. It helps us kind of continue the ball rolling, especially as we head into the weekend here. But check this out. Ad spend. Americans are about to be bombarded. This is from Axios, with hundreds of millions of dollars in political ads as the party's top spenders prep a huge fall advertising blitz. Ugh. 2022 election spending is expected to smash records. With primary season coming up to a close, both parties are preparing to unload the massive war chests they've stockpiled since last year. Ugh. Can you tell how I feel about this? I don't want to be seeing political ads everywhere, on billboards, in the mail, on YouTube videos and commercials. Just as football season starts going up, I want to be able to have a automatic commercial mute button where I just mute the political ads. Advertising intelligence firms Ad Impact projects 2022 cycles will see nearly $9.7 billion in political advertising. That's more than double the previous midterm record set in 2018. And even more was spent during the 2020 cycle that featured a hotly contested presidential race. So, bottom line here is politics is now the nation's pastime for some reason. And we've seen more political spending in the last couple of years than ever before. Now, generally speaking, presidential elections, and I've kind of explained this before, presidential elections have much bigger turnout. There's a lot of the higher political spending because people are aware of it. Specifically, if you want to look at demos, Republicans tend to do better in midterms and Democrats tend to do better in presidentials. Because, and I'm just stating what's obvious here, Democrats tend to go after low info voters, and low info voters really only know that an election is going on if the president is involved. In other words, they don't show up to midterms because they don't know what's going on because of the low info voter thing right there. Anyways, 2018 saw a record set in the midterms for political spending. 2020 had a obviously presidential, huge ad spend. But 2022 is going to be the record in the midterms, but also 2020's election cycle, which featured a presidential race, $9.7 billion set to be spent in political advertising. Gag. I'm not looking forward to that at all. And also, because political advertising, as somebody who has crafted, hundreds of political ads, it's all nonsense. It's all garbage. Specifically catered to people who might not turn out to vote and trying to scare them to the polls. On both sides, by the way. There was a hilarious commercial. Was it a YouTube video? I think it was a YouTube video that I saw that was like, in a happy key, the script was something along the lines of like, Congressman A is a supporter of Donald Trump. He supports building the wall and is a lifelong member of the NRA. Juxtaposed with happy music going on, juxtaposed to a minor key and a deeper voice. Congressman A is a supporter of Donald Trump, and he supports building a wall and is a lifelong NRA member. Same ad copy, different sides. Political advertising is a bunch of crap and nonsense, and we're about to see more of it than ever before. Gag. And I want to get to this. This is kind of interesting, too. This is mostly kind of just a headline here. Actually, no, there's some statistics that are kind of funny. 2/3 of, speaking of politics and how it's infiltrated our society, 2/3 of rising college sophomores aren't looking to marry someone who supports a different presidential candidate that they do, according to a poll by Generation Lab for NBC News. The survey found that politics has directly affected the life of the country's younger generation, impacting things like college, dorm rooms, and dating decisions. Interesting. In the comment section, I'd actually be curious to see what you're thinking here. Would you guys date somebody from a different political party or that voted for a different political candidate? I have friends, very good friends, and actually family members who their marriage, he leans to the right, she leans to the left, which is usually almost always the case. It's very rarely the case that's flipped. Maybe the Conways, where Kellyanne is a big-time Trump person and George is not. But I don't know. Would you guys, in the comment section, let me know if you would marry somebody that isn't from the same political party or doesn't support the same political candidates that you do. 63% said they probably or definitely don't see themselves marrying someone who supported a presidential candidate other than the one they supported in the 2020 election. 78% Democrats and 51% Republicans. That's actually kind of interesting. So 80% of Democrats asked said, "Oh, I would never marry a Republican." No. And only 50% of Republicans said, "Yeah, I wouldn't marry a Democrat." I don't know. That's kind of an interesting split there. Republicans, actually, you know what? This is not interesting. We've done a poll before that I'm just thinking of now that we Republicans are much, much more likely to have Democrat friends, or let's just break it out. Let's screw the parties. Conservatives are much more likely to have liberal friends than liberals are to have conservative friends. That's definitely true in my case. I have lots of liberal friends, lots of very progressive friends that still keep in touch with me because I don't know, I like to think I'm fair and we have good conversations and we don't agree on everything, but they're still friendly, and I don't think they're trying to ruin America in most cases. I can't say that for all Democrats, but the friends that I have at least are very cordial and very nice, especially when it comes to politics, and I enjoy spending time with them. I think they have substantially less conservative friends than I have liberal friends. So that's just, is what it is. So I can see that. I can see why 80% of Democrats say, I would never marry a Republican, while only half of Republicans say I would never marry a Democrat. Across income levels, the majority of people who would probably / definitely not marry someone who supported a different candidate. I don't know. I emphasized the wrong part of that sentence. Across all income levels, that the same is true. The same held among white, Hispanic, Black, and Asian college students in the survey. This is worth noting. 53% in the survey said that they would probably definitely not go on a date with a person who supported, not even go on a date with a person they supported, or you know what I'm saying, didn't support the same candidate in 2020. I don't know, kind of interesting. You know what's even more interesting and kind of scary? Well, I'm trying to think of a fun way to transition this. Well, let me get to some of these comments. These comments are kind of interesting. Conservatives are more accepting. Yeah, that tends to be the case. That wasn't the case, I don't know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, but that's kind of just the case now. Let's see. Wow, a lot of people not excited for. Well, okay, I'm going to stop reading these comments because I want to get to this. This is actually super interesting, and I don't know what the correct answer is or what we're supposed to do. Which is why the Chiron reads, what do we do here? President Xi, I've told myself that I'm going to stop doing this, calling the dictator of China, Xi Jinping, president. I know the rest of the world calls him that, and I know the media calls him that. Same with Vladimir Putin. I don't know why they try to use the same terminology that we use, but it's not the same thing. Xi and Putin are not presidents in the same way that the United States president is a president. Or in the same way a lot of countries elect their leaders. They are dictators and should be called as such. So I don't freaking like when I fall for that same thing. And this article, I think also from Axios, says the same thing. It says China's president Xi Jinping. No. Where I'm going to try mentally to replace the word president with dictator. Chinese dictator Xi Jinping and Russian leader Vladimir Putin plan to attend G20 summit in Bali later this year, according to Indonesian officials. President Biden is also expected to attend November's forum, setting the stage for the first summit involving the leaders from the U.S., China, and Russia since Putin's forces invaded Ukraine, and tensions between Washington and Beijing have become further heightened after the White House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. Basically, the question here is, I don't know what we do. What does Joe Biden say if Putin and Xi Jinping show up to the G20 summit in Indonesia? This would be the first time I think Xi Jinping has left China since January 2020. So that'll be really interesting if he actually shows. And apparently, Chinese troops have gone to Russia or vice versa to participate in military exercises because they are forming an alliance that we are going to have to stop in some way, shape, or form. So bottom line is this. That's going to be interesting. And I don't know how Biden handles it. From a domestic policy standpoint, there's a lot of things that I disagree with Biden. From a foreign policy standpoint, there's a lot of things I disagree with Joe Biden. But in this particular meeting, if Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping are all in a room together in November of this year, I hope they give Joe Biden whatever shots in the ass that Donald Trump said he claimed he took before the debates, and I hope he's on his A game because that is a big freaking deal, and I feel like could be a potential massive problem going forward. I don't know. What do you do when you're in a meeting with somebody who just invaded another country? And you're sending billions of dollars, whether you agree with that or not, to the country that he just invaded. I don't know. What do you say? What does Joe Biden say? How does he handle that situation? I am not super confident that he'll handle it well, but at the same time, I hope he does for the sake of Americans. All right. We'll see what happens there. I don't know. We'll obviously have some time to follow up on that story. Last thing that I want to get to before I send you off into the weekend was the ridiculous that happened in a California public school. A principal at whatever this school is called the police on a 4-year-old not wearing a mask. Can you believe that this is still a thing? I genuinely can't. Apparently, wearing a mask in school is still a thing that people are trying to enforce, especially in the state of California. I want to play this video, this clip. The officer, I think it's just a school officer, the school-employed police officer, came to the school, talked to the parents. He was cordial, but the fact that he was having to do that at all is insane. Watch this video, and then I'll give you kind of some of the specifics and an update. Check it out.
As you notice, here she comes, pulling him out of class.
I want him here. He is a lovely child. We're here to support and serve him. Our district policy has changed. I am here to serve all students on our campus who cannot keep spending time on the same issue.
Thank you.
I'm going to have you removed from campus if you don't leave at this
Okay.
You will.
All right. Police officer, called police officer to remove a 4-year-old from campus.
But the school district has decided on independently because from what I understand is the numbers within their school district has increased.
Yeah.
So they're basing that decision. And you know, I can't say like what they're doing is wrong and I can't say what you're doing is wrong. And honestly, like both sides have valid points.
Yeah.
For me, I just got to make sure the rest of it as a campus as a whole, everyone's safe and that kids get their education and you know that's and you seem like a good dude, you seem good father, and so I just hope like by next week they lift this and then it's all resolved.
So I don't envy the police officer there or the school campus officer for what he's saying or what he's doing. That seems like it's just a dumb position to be in. But he was cordial. But the bottom line here is that people are apparently still being forced off. Kids, 4-year-olds, are still being forced off campus if they don't wear a mask. Interestingly enough, there's no state or county mask mandate in place where this school resides. But there was a major update. After the incident went viral, the school found a reason to quickly lift their mask mandate. However, the district says they may reinstate mandatory indoor masks if the county moves back into the higher CDC level tier. So there is that. A lot of people saying this is why my child is homeschooled. I think even in California, I think most of the schools are not like this. But what a ridiculous thing to do if you're the principal of this school, enforcing something that I thought we followed the science here. Apparently not. Let me see. The CDC has walked back. I'm reading a comment here. The CDC has walked back on mask mandates, among other things. Leave the kids alone. Yeah, I would agree. Seems ridiculous to call a campus police on a 4-year-old. Crazy. That's going to do it for us today and for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. I know it's been kind of a tumultuous week. Actually, it was a 3-day week here. Tonight, if you live in Southern California, let's see, where will I be? I'll be in San Bernardino, at the San Bernardino County, I think, Republican Party convention in San Bernardino. It actually is this way. Directionally, it's this way. Apparently now you know the direction. Well, never mind. I'll be in San Bernardino County. If you're available, come see. It's going to be a fun evening of politainment. Yeah, and if you haven't already, if you want specifics on that, give me a follow on any of your social media, and I'll send you the flyer or the information that you can come and hang out in the SB. Also, give me a follow if you want to, I don't know, talk about really anything else. I get back to most of the messages, not in the last couple days. It's been bombarded with stuff. So yeah, I might not get back to it. But anyways, follow me on social media. You can we can have a continued dialogue there. That's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in for the rest of the week. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. See you Monday. God bless America.